Yo, what is up? Welcome to Ninja Geek Games. When is a rumour not a rumour? When it's an asset. A little card play joke for you there. The Kilforth Saga is undoubtedly one of the finest story-driven adventures around. Whether you're travelling the mainland itself, the southern fringes, or the eastern wilderness, which apparently is lovely this time of year, you'll encounter hideous monsters, peculiar places, and curious strangers. Not to mention the ancients that lurk within the shadows. From an outside perspective, these games may appear as small boxed, light in quest, and each an emulation of its predecessor. Luckily, I'm here to discuss the finer points. The Kilforth Saga began with Gloom, which proved to be a dark and twisted high fantasy game with a gritty core. What followed then were standalone expansions in the form of Shadows and Call that took us to different regions of the land, but no less dangerous. In my previous videos, I've discussed card type and setup, provided a review, as well as pitted Gloom against its light-hearted cousin Runebound in a head-to-head clash within my Tabletop Grudge Match series. It's therefore obvious to see that this saga sits fairly high up on the list of games that you'd need to prize from my cold dead hands before I sell. Therefore, in this video, I'm going to discuss the nature of the games and why these will be staying on my shelf indefinitely. For those that don't know much about these games, I'll briefly go over the main concepts. At setup, you get to choose a character, race and class to create quite a funky combo. You'll then take a saga, which is your personal story made up of a number of quests. During the game, you'll use actions to move about the map, fight enemies, meet strangers, perhaps make them enemies, and carry out a number of tests to overcome encounters and gain rewards. The rewards double up as some badass weapons, allies, spells, a ninja dog, wax lips of a yak. Anyway, they can become part of your attire, as well as laying the foundations to progress through your story. During this time, your hero becomes pretty buff, which is sorely needed as the land slowly succumbs to gloom, making R&R difficult. Not only that, once you've managed to complete your questing, you have one final test. Defeat the Ancient. These are terrible beings that include the Baron of Hades and the Prince of Ruin. They're not just clever names. If you manage to survive and take out the Ancient, your deeds will be sung by bards forever. Fail and no one will ever remember your name. One thing you'll notice about the game is that they all come in a relatively small box. In fact, sort the components and you've still got plenty of room. What makes this game special is the majority of components are cards. Each of the games has 25 map tiles that include a city area, and the others are composed of mountain ranges, swamps, deserts and oceans. The encounter deck is made up of the enemies that want to tear you limb from limb, as well as places, strangers and additional quests. They may have some abilities that become active once revealed, or provide some form of bonus if defeated. My favourite components are the rewards that you can find that come as spells, items, allies and titles. Once these sit in your play area as assets, they'll provide bonuses to your hero stats and possibly some deed abilities, and can even be removed from the game as a sacrifice for a one-time effect. The artwork on the cards is probably the best I've seen within my collection of games. It's exceptionally detailed and thematic, and I'll talk about how I feel the theme changes with each game a bit later. Nevertheless, you will find yourself gazing over every aspect of a drawn card before you put it into play, so be warned. All or Nothing also provides some pimped up components for these games, to include artwork that's a bit racier and larger map tiles, which are a must. Now, the best bit, character creation. I love this part of the game, and it's only carried out at setup. With each game, you get to create your legendary hero by taking a race and class card, either by choice or randomly. You want a bull centaur pirate or a vampire ninja, All or Nothing got your back. Aren't you a little short for an assassin? You'll also get a choice of reward card to take to hand, so you can choose these to support the first part of the saga you take, or based on how you built your character. It's totally up to you. Your saga is made up of just a few cards and becomes the focus of your game. These are double-sided and indicate how to progress through the story that provides a penultimate test before gaining a powerful totem. The variety of character, class and race is great, with some weird and wonderful combos for high replay value when you include both the saga and the ancient you're hunting, and I think that's incredibly important for these types of adventure games. From this, you'll be assigned skill cards complementary to your hero that become active during play, so now your play area starts to become quite big. Each game comes with 4 ancients, which are formidable and quite scary looking beings of immense power. They will affect the game in some way thanks to plot cards that pop up during play, so each of these enemies provides a different feel to the game and none of it good. Their appearance alone is foreboding and causes a sinister turn where you actually become quite anxious the closer you get to confronting them. If you let their plot cards fester over the course of play, it results in them being more difficult to overcome. Before we look at the best of the game mechanics, we first need to look at whether these games are for you. If you've made it this far into the video, then yes, they are. But what are the differences and where would you start? Well, each is a standalone experience, but theme varies between games. Gloom set the gold standard with its robust gameplay and dark gothic appearance, so in my experience it's a good place to start, and I actually think it has the better artwork of all 3 games. Shadow seems to have a more ancient Japan theme or representation of Asian culture, with samurai-like warriors, which really appeals to me but removes the standees for the ancients. It does introduce affiliation with the Rosen Knights or Doom Guards, which are awesome names. Here you show your support to one side, where the game effects will either hinder or reward your alliance. Lastly, Call of Kilforth is a very generous collaboration between Pirates of the Caribbean and your worst nightmare, which oddly go hand in hand. Here our affiliation goes one step further with the Blue Drakes and Sea Dogs, where you'll need to prep your timbers to be shivered. We lose the high token, although its action is still relevant, and the ancient standees, but the latter can be gained through the upgraded component sets. However, we are rewarded with captaincy by owning our very own pirate ships that can be powered up to attack ship tokens on every map tile. Resources can now be claimed for repair, health increase and gaining gold, so we have additional game actions to think about, although these are an optional extra. As mentioned, the game map is made up of a grid of 25 tiles. What I've done here is mixed up locations from each of the games, but the beauty of having cards is that each game provides a completely different layout. The locations may have game effects, for better or worse, shortcuts, and in Call of Kilforth they also provide resources and ship tokens to attack. If you're using the Galleons variant, these can be used to move extra spaces without wasting those precious action points, and if you attack ship tokens they could provide some booty. The other best thing about these games, excluding broadswords, is the action hit point relationship. As you progress through the story, your heroes gain hit points, and at the start of each round you have a number of actions to take based on your hit point value. Lose hit points through combat and you lose actions, so you have this stamina loss mechanic, which I like and loathe. Overcoming encounters and combat is all test based, and for those that like Arkham files such as Eldritch Horror, it's very similar. You roll dice, count successes and compare to the target value. So, to attempt this quest, I'll look at this attribute value and then roll dice equal to my hero's value that comes from their race and class cards, as well as any assets I have in play. A roll of 5 or 6 is a success, and I need a number of successes equal to or higher than that of the value of the card I'm testing. Combat is similar, but any successes are hits, where you continue until death. You have options to gain bonuses from surprise or card abilities, and can even sneak away if cowardly. Some might see this dice rolling as too random, but I like it because it forces you to utilise your card abilities and also map out which rooms in your hand become assets. Call of Kilforth also allows for a simple diceless mechanic for those who don't like to roll, but I've not used that yet. Also, you can't do everything. In each game you have just 25 rounds maximum to complete the game. Therefore you cannot claim every rumour, fight every monster or overcome every quest. You need to carefully select and take a few risks that often don't pay off. In other words, you have to play efficiently. With some other adventure games that I've played, you can simply wander the land, rescuing fair maidens and fighting dragons until you feel strong enough for the end game. Not here. Sometimes you're thrown into it. The enemies in these games are awesome. They come in various shapes and sizes, from a crazed T-Rex to raging vampires and reapers. The same is true with rewards. They aren't your traditional oak shields, elven blades or M41As. They come as titles and allies, as well as mystical items that I've never heard of, like dogs with black belts in ninjutsu. 'Tis true. To add to questing, any reward you find doesn't go into your play area. It's a rumour, a mere whispering of its whereabouts. You first need to visit the location to claim it, either because it supports your saga progression or because it's badass. All three games offer variants of play, whether it be using advanced rules or with the interaction between players. I usually play the game solo, controlling just one hero. You could look at two, but it may be difficult to manage. You can play competitively with 2 to 4 players, where you need to race through your saga and defeat your ancient one before the others. Here you can steal an encounter another player was partway through completing, but this has a nice competitive pressure rule so that no hero runs away with the game. In co-op play, you can form teams to take on encounters, providing bonus dice to a test or combat. With engagement, all heroes get to attack an enemy, so it's likely to be defeated sooner, but the enemy has bloodlust and will still attack all players in turn. What I like here is that the active player shares rewards between them, but your word isn't binding. At the end of a round in a standard game, a night card will turn a location into gloom. Both Shadows and Call come with tokens that randomly determine the location, but I don't normally use these as varied map layout is enough for me. You can also mix and match components and mechanics between games. Varied combos of map tiles with locations from all three games can be created, but this requires a little more time at setup to ensure you have the correct terrain types and night cards available. You can also mix rewards and encounter cards together for fuller decks, but again need to apply some rule changes to prevent the game becoming impossible to complete. Best of all, you are able to cross over race and class cards at character creation, which results in some pretty cool combos. I love these games. They each provide an immersive story of dark fantasy. You don't see them on everyone's shelf, but you should, although I do like the community following that the Kilforth Saga brings. However, they are tough. It's suggested you build up to a full game by removing plot cards or lowering the dice values for a successful test roll to begin with. And where to start is up to you. Call adds a number of new mechanics, Shadows has the fantastic samurai theme slipped in, but Gloom was the foundation. I hope this video clearly explained why these games are so enjoyable, whether it be for the components and artwork, their gritty nature or sinister story. If you're already a fan, tell me in the comments your favourite aspects. If you're new here, then feel free to ask questions. This is Ninja Geek Games. Cheers.